I am sitting here in my own house, surrounded by nothing but empty walls and this single chair I am keeping. 2 weeks ago, my mother told me Marcus is family Rob. Family takes care of family. Now I am staring at the bare floors where my couch used to be, where my dining table once stood, where my television entertained me after long days at work. You might think I have lost my mind, stripping my own home down to nothing. But let me tell you what really happened when my parents decided my unemployed brother deserved everything I had worked for and why I chose to take it all back. Before I tell you how I ended up sitting in my own empty house, wondering if I had finally lost my mind, drop a comment below and let me know where you are watching from. Hit that like button if you have ever felt like the responsible one in your family always gets the short end of the stick. And make sure to subscribe, because what happened next in that courtroom changed everything I thought I knew about family loyalty. My name is Rob, and I am 32 years old. For the past 8 years, I have been working as a software engineer here in Denver, Colorado. Every morning at 7, I grab my coffee and head to the office, where I debug code and build applications that help small businesses manage their operations. It is not the most exciting work, but it pays well, and more importantly, it gave me something I had dreamed about since college, my own home. I still remember the day I got the keys to this place. 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, a spacious backyard, and a 2-car garage in a quiet neighborhood where kids ride their bikes and neighbors actually wave at each other. I had saved every penny I could for 5 years, living in cramped apartments and driving my beat-up Honda until the wheels nearly fell off. But when I walked through that front door for the first time as the owner, I knew every sacrifice had been worth it. Growing up in a family where my father worked construction and my mother cleaned office buildings, owning a house felt like reaching the American dream. The house became my sanctuary. I spent weekends painting the walls, installing new fixtures, and slowly filling each room with furniture I had carefully chosen. My living room had this comfortable leather couch where I would unwind after work, watching basketball games on my 55-inch television. The kitchen had everything I needed to cook decent meals, and I had even set up a small home office in the spare bedroom where I could freelance on weekends to earn extra money. For 3 years, life was exactly what I had hoped it would be. I had stability, privacy, and the satisfaction that comes from building something entirely on your own. Then my brother Marcus came back into the picture, and everything started falling apart. Marcus is 29 years old, but you would never guess it from the way he approaches life. While I was grinding through college and working my way up in the tech industry, Marcus was jumping from job to job like he was playing hopscotch. One month he would be working at a restaurant, the next month at a retail store, then maybe a warehouse job that lasted all of 6 weeks. There was always some excuse. The manager did not appreciate his ideas. His coworkers were jealous of his natural charisma. The company had poor leadership that could not recognize talent when they saw it. Our parents always defended him. Marcus just needs the right opportunity, my mother would say whenever I asked why my brother could not hold down a steady job. He has so much potential, he just needs to find his path. My father would nod along, adding, "Not everyone is cut out for the corporate world like you, Rob. Marcus is more of a creative type." Over the years, I had helped Marcus more times than I could count. I lent him money when he was between jobs, which happened frequently. I gave him rides when his car broke down because he could not afford repairs. I even let him crash on my couch for a few nights, here and there, when things got really tight. Each time, Marcus would promise he was getting his life together, and each time I believed him because that is what brothers do for each other. That Friday evening in October, my phone rang just as I was settling in to watch a movie. My mother's voice sounded strained, more worried than I had heard her in years. "Rob, we need to talk to you about Marcus," she said, skipping any small talk. "He got evicted from his apartment today." I felt my stomach drop. "Evicted? What happened?" "He owes 3 months of rent," my father chimed in from the background. "The landlord changed the locks this afternoon. Marcus is staying at his friend's place tonight, but that is not going to work long term. My mother continued, her voice getting more desperate. We cannot take him in, son. You know how small our senior apartment is, and with my arthritis getting worse, I can barely manage the stairs as it is. Your father's back is not what it used to be either. Then came the request I had been dreading. You have that big house, and you are doing so well. Marcus just needs a fresh start somewhere stable where he can get back on his feet. My father jumped back in, using the tone he had perfected when I was a kid. He is your only brother, Rob. We raised you boys to take care of each other. Family is all we really have in this world. I sat there in my living room, looking around at the space I had worked so hard to create, feeling the weight of their expectations crushing down on me. Part of me wanted to say no immediately. I had seen this pattern before, and I knew how it usually ended. But the guilt was overwhelming. These were my parents, people who had sacrificed to raise me, and Marcus was my brother, even if he made terrible decisions. How long are we talking about? I asked already, knowing I was going to cave. Just a few weeks, my mother said quickly. Just until he finds another job and gets back on his feet. Marcus promised he is ready to turn things around this time. Against every instinct screaming in my head, I agreed. I told them Marcus could stay in my living room, temporarily, maybe a month at most, while he looked for work. I made it clear this was not a permanent arrangement, and that I expected him to contribute to household expenses and actively search for employment. Thank you so much, honey, my mother said, and I could hear the relief in her voice. Marcus is going to be so grateful. This is exactly what he needs to get his life back on track. The following Monday, Marcus showed up at my door with 2 duffel bags and a smile that seemed genuinely appreciative. He looked around the house with what appeared to be real admiration, commenting on how well I had done for myself and promising he would not be a burden. This is amazing, Rob, he said, setting his bags down next to my couch. I really appreciate you doing this for me. I know I have not always been the most reliable guy, but I am serious about getting my act together this time. We sat down and went over the ground rules. Marcus would sleep on the couch until he could afford his own place. He would spend at least 6 hours each day actively looking for work, applying to jobs and following up on leads. He would contribute $200 per month toward groceries and utilities, which seemed reasonable given that he would be staying rent-free. Most importantly, he would have 30 days to find employment and start making progress toward moving out. Marcus nodded enthusiastically at each point. Absolutely, man. That is totally fair. I am going to hit the ground running tomorrow morning. I have already been looking at some opportunities online, and I think Denver has way more options than the small town I was living in before. For the first 2 weeks, everything seemed to be going according to plan. Marcus would wake up relatively early, around 8 or 9 in the morning, and I would see him on his laptop at the kitchen table when I left for work. He even cooked dinner a couple of times, which was a pleasant surprise. When I asked how the job search was going, he would give me updates about applications he had submitted and interviews he was hoping to schedule. I am really focusing on sales positions, he told me one evening, over the spaghetti he had made. I have always been good with people, and the commission potential in some of these jobs is really attractive. I had a phone screening today that went really well. I felt optimistic for the first time in years about Marcus's situation. Maybe this really would be different. Maybe having a stable place to stay and the support of family was exactly what he needed to finally grow up and take responsibility for his life. But by the 3rd week, I started noticing some concerning changes. I would leave for work at 7:30 in the morning, and Marcus would still be asleep on my couch. When I came home for lunch one day, I found him in the same position I had left him, still in his pajamas watching daytime television. Everything okay? I asked, trying to keep my tone neutral. Oh, yeah, totally, Marcus said, barely looking away from the screen. I am just taking a different approach to the job search. I have been doing a lot of networking online, and the best opportunities actually come up at night when hiring managers are checking their emails after regular business hours. It sounded like nonsense, but I did not want to jump to conclusions. Maybe there was some truth to his strategy, and maybe I was being too judgmental. I decided to give him the benefit of the doubt for a little longer. However, other problems were becoming harder to ignore. My grocery bill had nearly doubled, but the refrigerator was always empty by midweek. The electricity bill for that month was almost 50% higher than usual, even though I was at work most of the day. When I asked Marcus about it, he explained that he was running his laptop and phone constantly for job searching, plus he needed to have the television on for background noise while he worked. The final straw came when Marcus's friends started showing up at my house. At first, it was just one guy named Tommy who stopped by to help with networking. But soon, there were 2 or 3 people hanging around in my living room, most evenings drinking beer and talking loudly until well past midnight. These were not professional contacts or potential employers. They were unemployed guys in their late 20s who seemed more interested in playing video games and complaining about the job market than actually finding work. I had to say something. One evening after his friends had left, I sat down with Marcus and explained that the arrangement was not working the way we had discussed. "I need you to be more serious about finding work," I said. "It has been 3 weeks, and I have not seen any real progress. Plus, having people over every night is not what we agreed on. This is my home, and I need it to be a place where I can relax after work." Marcus's demeanor changed immediately. The grateful, motivated attitude disappeared, replaced by defensiveness and irritation. "Dude, the job market is really rough right now," he said, crossing his arms. "I am doing my best, but you cannot just snap your fingers and make employers call you back. And those guys are not just friends, they are contacts. Tommy knows people in sales, and Jake has connections in the restaurant industry. Networking is a huge part of finding good opportunities." I asked him to show me some of the applications he had submitted or the interviews he had scheduled. Marcus became evasive, claiming his laptop was having technical problems and he would show me everything once he got it fixed. He promised to be more focused and to limit the number of people he had over, but I could tell his heart was not in it. The breaking point came when my parents called me 2 days later. Marcus had apparently called them crying about how difficult I was being and how unsupportive I was of his job search efforts. "Rob, your brother says you are being really hard on him," my mother said, her voice filled with disappointment. "He is trying his best, but you are making him feel unwelcome in your own home." My father added his perspective. "He is family, son. You cannot just throw him out on the street because he is taking a little longer to find work than you expected. The economy is tough right now." I tried to explain the reality of the situation. Marcus was not actively looking for work. He was taking advantage of my generosity, and he was turning my home into a hangout spot for his unemployed friends. But my parents did not want to hear it. In their minds, I was the successful one who should be grateful for the opportunity to help his struggling brother. "I thought we raised you better than this," my mother said. And those words cut deeper than anything else she could have said. After hanging up the phone, I sat in my empty kitchen, feeling like the villain in my own story. How had trying to help my brother turned into me being the bad guy? How had setting reasonable boundaries made me heartless and unsupportive? The answer came a few days later when I decided to come home early from work to check on Marcus's job search progress. What I found changed everything. I walked through my front door at 2 in the afternoon to find Marcus and 2 of his friends sitting around my coffee table with what was clearly marijuana spread out in front of them. Empty beer bottles were scattered around my living room, and the smell hit me immediately. This was not just casual use. This was a full-blown afternoon party in my house while I was supposed to be at work. Marcus looked up with glazed eyes and a guilty expression that told me everything I needed to know. His 2 friends, Tommy, and some guy I had never met before, scrambled to clean up the evidence, shoving things into their pockets and trying to act casual. "Rob, hey man," Marcus said, his speech slightly slurred. "You are home early today. "What the hell is this?" I asked, gesturing at the scene in front of me. "It is just a little weed man. No big deal. We are just relaxing and brainstorming some business ideas." The casualness of his response made my blood boil. This was not just about marijuana use in my house, which was bad enough. This was about the complete disrespect for our agreement and the realization that Marcus had been lying to me about everything. "Get out," I told his friends. "Both of you leave my house right now." They mumbled apologies and hurried toward the door, leaving Marcus and me alone to have the conversation I should have had weeks earlier. "How many job applications have you actually submitted?" I asked. Marcus tried to deflect. "I told you I am taking a different approach. I am focusing on networking and waiting for the right opportunities." I walked over to my computer, which Marcus had been using for his supposed job search. A quick check of the browser history revealed the truth I had suspected but hoped was not accurate. For the past 2 weeks, Marcus had not visited a single job board or company website. Instead, he had spent hours watching YouTube videos, browsing social media, and playing online games. There was no job search. There had never been a job search. "You have been lying to me this entire time," I said, showing him the browser history. "You have not applied for a single job since you moved in here." Marcus finally dropped the act. "Look, I need some time to figure out what I really want to do with my life. I cannot just take any random job like you did. I have bigger aspirations than sitting in an office all day." That comment was the final insult. Any random job like I did? I had worked hard to build a career that allowed me to own a house and live independently. Marcus was treating my success like it was some kind of accident or failure. I gave him an ultimatum: find a job within 1 week or move out of my house. Marcus immediately called our parents right there in front of me to complain about my unreasonable demands. Within an hour, my phone was ringing. My mother was furious. "How can you be so heartless?" she demanded. "Your brother is going through a difficult time, and instead of supporting him, you are threatening to make him homeless." My father was even more direct. "If you kick Marcus out, do not bother calling us anymore. We will never forgive you if something happens to your brother because you were too selfish to help family." The ultimatum had backfired completely. Instead of motivating Marcus to take responsibility, it had turned my parents against me and made me look like the villain who was abandoning family in their time of need. That Friday night, I came home from work to find my worst nightmare. My front door was wide open, music was blasting from inside, and there were cars parked all over my driveway and lawn. Marcus had decided to throw a party in my house without asking, and it was not a small gathering. There were at least 15 or 20 people inside, most of whom I had never seen before. The scene inside was even worse than I had imagined. Someone had spilled beer all over my hardwood floors. There were pizza boxes and empty bottles everywhere. Strangers were using my bathroom, sitting on my furniture, and helping themselves to whatever food they could find in my kitchen. The music was so loud that I could see neighbors peeking out their windows to see what was causing the disturbance. I found Marcus in my living room, clearly drunk, surrounded by people who were treating my home like their personal club. "What the hell is this?" I shouted over the music. Marcus looked at me with bloodshot eyes and a defiant expression I had never seen before. "This is my house too. You cannot tell me what to do." That statement was the breaking point. This was not his house. He had not paid a single dollar toward the mortgage, utilities, or even groceries. He had contributed nothing except chaos and disrespect, and now he was claiming ownership of my home in front of a room full of strangers. I turned off the music and announced that everyone needed to leave immediately. Most people were cooperative once they realized I was the homeowner, but the damage was already done. Someone had vomited in my guest bathroom. My coffee table had new scratches and water stains. The smell of marijuana and cigarettes had permeated everything. The final humiliation came when the police showed up because neighbors had called about the noise. I had to explain to 2 officers that my brother had thrown a party without permission and that I was trying to regain control of my own home. It was embarrassing and infuriating, and I knew that my relationship with my neighbors had been damaged. As I surveyed the wreckage after everyone left, I made a decision that would change everything. Marcus was passed out on my couch, snoring loudly, oblivious to the chaos he had created. I had tried being reasonable. I had tried setting boundaries. I had tried working with my family to find a solution that worked for everyone. Nothing had worked because Marcus had no intention of changing his behavior or taking responsibility for his life. If my parents wanted to choose Marcus over me, if they wanted to support his irresponsible lifestyle instead of acknowledging my legitimate concerns, then I was done playing by their rules. I was going to take back control of my life and my home, regardless of what anyone else thought about it. That weekend, while Marcus was sleeping off his hangover and probably planning his next party, I started making phone calls. The first call was to a moving company to schedule a pickup for Monday morning. The second call was to a lawyer who specialized in landlord-tenant disputes to understand my rights as a homeowner. The third call was to my bank to set up a new account that my family could not access or monitor. The plan I developed was simple, but comprehensive. Every single item in my house that belonged to me would be moved to a storage unit. The furniture, the television, the kitchen appliances, the bedding, the dishes, everything I had purchased with my own money would be removed. Marcus would be left with exactly what he had contributed to the household, nothing except the clothes he had brought in those 2 duffel bags. I spent Sunday creating a detailed inventory of everything I owned, including receipts and purchase dates where possible. My lawyer had advised me to document everything to protect myself from any potential legal challenges. Marcus had no lease agreement, had never paid rent, and could not claim ownership of any property in the house, but I wanted to be prepared for anything. Monday morning arrived, and Marcus was still asleep at 9:30 when the moving truck pulled up in front of my house. He stumbled out of the living room in his underwear, confused, and probably still intoxicated from whatever he had consumed over the weekend. "What is going on?" he asked, rubbing his eyes, as 3 moving crew members walked through the front door. "I am taking my stuff," I said simply. "What do you mean, taking your stuff? Where are you taking it?" I did not owe him an explanation, but I gave him one anyway. "You said this was your house too, right? Well, if it is your house, then you can live in it with your own furniture and your own belongings. Everything here belongs to me, and I am moving it out." Marcus watched in growing panic as the movers began wrapping my couch, my television, my dining room table, and everything else I had worked years to afford. He followed me around the house arguing and pleading, but I had made my decision. "You cannot do this," he said, as they loaded my refrigerator onto the truck. "Where am I supposed to sleep? What am I supposed to eat? Those are problems you should have thought about before you decided to disrespect my home and my hospitality," I replied. By noon, the house was completely empty, except for Marcus's 2 duffel bags and a few personal items he had left scattered around. I had the locks changed and installed a new security system with cameras at the front and back doors. Marcus would not be able to get back inside, and if he tried to break in, I would have video evidence. The look on Marcus's face, when he realized what had happened, was a mixture of shock, anger, and genuine fear. For the first time in his adult life, he was facing the consequences of his actions without anyone to bail him out. "Mom and Dad are going to kill you for this," he said, sitting on the front steps with his belongings. "Let them try," I said, handing him the new key to the empty house. "You wanted this to be your place too. Congratulations. It is all yours now. Enjoy paying the mortgage, utilities, property taxes, and insurance on your own." Marcus tried calling our parents immediately, but I had already spoken with them that morning. I explained exactly what I had done and why I had done it, making it clear that this was not a negotiation or a temporary punishment. Marcus was on his own now, and they could choose to support him financially if they wanted to, but it would not be happening in my house with my resources. The phone calls and text messages started immediately. My mother was hysterical, accusing me of abandoning family and destroying our relationship forever. My father was furious, calling me selfish and heartless. Marcus sent me dozens of angry messages threatening to take me to court and demanding that I return his belongings. That last threat turned out to be more than just angry words. 3 weeks later, I received a legal summons. Marcus was actually suing me, claiming that I had stolen his personal property and illegally evicted him from what he now claimed was his legal residence. I have to admit, when I first read the court documents, I felt a moment of panic. What if somehow Marcus could convince a judge that he had rights to my house or my belongings? What if my desire to teach him a lesson backfired and ended up costing me everything I had worked for? But my lawyer reviewed the case and assured me that Marcus had no legal standing whatsoever. He had never signed a lease, never paid rent, never contributed to the mortgage or any household expenses, and had no documentation proving ownership of any property in the house. The lawsuit was frivolous, and Marcus would likely end up owing me money for my legal fees. The day of the court hearing was one of the most surreal experiences of my life. Marcus showed up with a public defender who looked like he wished he were anywhere else. My lawyer brought a box full of documentation, purchase receipts, bank statements, mortgage payments, utility bills, and the inventory I had created, showing ownership of every item I had removed from the house. Marcus's case fell apart immediately. When the judge asked him to provide evidence that he had purchased any of the items in question, he could not produce a single receipt or bank statement. When asked about his contributions to household expenses, he admitted that he had never paid rent or utilities. When asked about any written agreement regarding his living situation, he acknowledged that everything had been based on verbal family arrangements. The most devastating moment came when the judge asked Marcus directly about his employment status and efforts to find work while living in my house. "Your Honor," Marcus said, "I was between jobs and focusing on networking opportunities. Did you submit any job applications during the 2 months you lived with your brother?" the judge asked. Marcus hesitated, then admitted, "I was taking a strategic approach to my career development." My lawyer presented the browser history evidence showing that Marcus had not visited any job sites or submitted any applications during his entire stay. The judge's expression made it clear that he understood exactly what kind of person he was dealing with. In the end, the judge not only dismissed Marcus's lawsuit, but ordered him to pay my legal fees and court costs. He also took a moment to lecture Marcus about personal responsibility and the importance of contributing to society instead of taking advantage of family members. "Young man," the judge said, "your brother provided you with free housing and support while you made no effort to improve your situation. Instead of being grateful, you have wasted the court's time with a frivolous lawsuit. I suggest you use this experience as motivation to finally grow up and take responsibility for your own life." Sitting in that courtroom and watching my brother face the consequences of his actions, I felt a mixture of satisfaction and sadness. I was vindicated in my decision to remove him from my house, but I took no pleasure in seeing him humiliated in front of our parents and a room full of strangers. My parents had attended the hearing, probably expecting to watch me get punished for my cruel treatment of Marcus. Instead, they witnessed their younger son lying under oath and failing to provide any evidence for his claims. For the first time, they saw Marcus the way I had been seeing him for years, as someone who made excuses instead of efforts and who expected others to solve his problems while he contributed nothing. After the hearing, my mother approached me in the hallway outside the courtroom. Her eyes were red from crying, but her voice was steady. "I owe you an apology," she said quietly. "We did not want to see what Marcus had become. We kept making excuses for him because we loved him, but we were not helping him by protecting him from consequences." My father nodded, looking older than I had ever seen him. "You did the right thing, son. It was hard to watch, but maybe this is what Marcus needed to finally wake up." Marcus himself was a different story. He stormed out of the courthouse without speaking to any of us, angry and embarrassed, but still not ready to accept responsibility for his situation. However, I heard through family friends that the court experience had actually motivated him to make some changes. Within a month of the hearing, Marcus had found a job at a warehouse. It was not glamorous work, but it was steady employment with decent pay and benefits. He moved into a small apartment with a roommate and started paying his own bills. For the first time in his adult life, he was completely self-sufficient. I moved back into my house and slowly began replacing the furniture and belongings I had put in storage. It felt good to reclaim my space and my independence. The whole experience had taught me something valuable about the difference between helping people and enabling them. Looking back on everything that happened, I realized that my decision to empty my house was not really about punishing Marcus or proving a point to my parents. It was about establishing boundaries and refusing to be taken advantage of by people who expected my success to be their safety net. Family is important, and I will always love my brother despite his flaws. But love does not mean accepting destructive behavior or sacrificing your own well-being to enable someone else's irresponsibility. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do is to step back and allow people to face the natural consequences of their choices. The relationship between Marcus and me is different now, but it is also more honest. When we talk, which is not very often, there is no pretense about him needing rescue or me owing him support. He knows that I will be there for genuine emergencies, but he also knows that I will not be anyone's meal ticket or fallback plan. My parents and I have rebuilt our relationship on a foundation of mutual respect rather than guilt and obligation. They understand that my success came through hard work and sacrifice, not luck, and they no longer expect me to share the benefits of that success with family members who have not earned it. The most important lesson I learned from this entire experience is that boundaries are not walls designed to keep people out. They are guidelines that help relationships function in healthy ways. When you remove boundaries to accommodate someone else's dysfunction, you are not being generous or loving. You are being an enabler, and enabling ultimately hurts everyone involved. Marcus had to learn that actions have consequences and that other people do not owe him a comfortable life just because he is family. I had to learn that saying no to unreasonable demands is not selfish or heartless. It is necessary for maintaining your own integrity and well-being. The house is quiet now, filled with my own belongings, and free from the chaos that Marcus brought into my life. When I sit on my couch in the evenings watching television or reading, I appreciate the peace in a way I never did before. This space belongs to me because I earned it, and I will never again allow anyone to take advantage of that accomplishment, regardless of their relationship to me. If you have ever been in a similar situation with family members who expect you to solve their problems while they make no effort to solve their own, I want you to know that it is okay to say no. It is okay to establish boundaries. It is okay to protect what you have worked hard to build. You are not responsible for other people's poor decisions, and you do not owe anyone access to the benefits of your success. What do you think about my decision to empty my house and force Marcus to face reality? Have you ever had to set difficult boundaries with family members who were taking advantage of your generosity? Drop a comment below and share your polarized story. If this resonated with you, hit that like button and subscribe for more real stories about family relationships and the importance of standing up for yourself. Share this video with anyone who might need to hear that it is okay to prioritize their own well-being over family expectations. Thanks for watching. And remember that sometimes the most loving thing you can do is refuse to enable someone else's dysfunction. Take care of yourselves out there.